Welcome to Big Blend Radio's very first episode of our brand new series, A Feast of Words. It's National Literacy Month, and we're excited to launch this literary journey with you in celebration of storytelling and the written word. Throughout the year, we'll feature authors, writers, and poets sharing short readings tied to different themes. So get ready to hear from 8 wonderful writers sharing short pieces from their work. Clifford Garstang is an award-winning author, writer, and editor. Diane Dobry is a travel writer and memoirist. Linda Ballou is a travel writer, fiction, and nonfiction author. HEIDI Sander is a poet and travel writer. Matt Cost is a mystery and history author. Eva Eldridge is a writer, editor, book industry expert, and co-president of the Tucson Sisters in Crime organization. And Suzanne Flagg, she's a mystery author, and Erin Younglis is a writer, indie publisher, and genealogist. Their stories and poems span crime and mystery, the supernatural, personal reflections, history, travel, nature, and the shared human experience. So get your favorite drink and snack, settle in, and enjoy this debut episode of A Feast of Words, short stories and poems to enjoy anytime. When we talk about short story collections or essay collections, the first person who comes to my mind is Cliff Garstang. Clifford, I think that's how we first met you, right? Was with a short story collection, right?
I believe that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell everybody the title of the book, because you know I can't pronounce it still to this day.
Well, the book we first talked about, I think, was What the Jong Boys Know,
Yes.
which is a story collection of 12 independent stories, but I actually call it a novel in stories. 12 stories make up a single narrative arc. That's this one.
And then there was that one, but then there was also In an Uncharted Country, too.
Uncharted Country. Yeah, maybe that was the first.
That was the first one, now that I think of it, yeah.
And that one is the first book that I wrote, actually, first that I published. And it's 12 independent stories, but linked by characters, and they're all set in the same fictional small town in Virginia.
Wow. So that was a while ago, Cliff, I think.
2009 is when that came out. So
Yeah. Wow. We were still out in the desert. Yeah. Kind of always go like, where were we at that time? That's amazing. And you just keep writing and keep writing. But didn't you have some other collections before that?
not before that.
Edited them.
So after those two came out, then I started working on this series called Everywhere Stories. So there are 3 volumes in that series, and they are all with 20 stories by 20 different authors set in 20 different countries. So we have 60 stories total in the 3 volumes. Couple of countries got repeated. We repeated a story in the US in each volume. So it's actually 58 countries. And I'm really proud of those. They started coming out in 2014. I think we did one in 2016 and another in 2018. And I've just been too busy to come back and do a fourth volume.
Wow, it's amazing. And this is such a great way for authors to get started in the world of publishing and getting published, right? Is with short story collections and anthologies.
Well, yeah. So with anthologies, it's great to keep an eye out for submission opportunities like that, because as you
Mm.
say, it is a good way to break in. It's kind of like a literary magazine in some ways, but it probably has more distribution possibilities than a literary magazine and library shelf life and that sort of thing. And with your own story collection, that is not an anthology of multiple authors, but a single author, there are lots of small presses that are interested in publishing those kinds of books. It's harder to get a big press interested in a story collection by an unknown author, but if you are newer, there are presses like one of my presses that I publish with, Press 53, is very interested in story collections and poetry collections.
Mm.
And there's a relatively new press that I've been blurbing books for called Cornerstone Press, which has published a lot of story collections. in the last couple of years.
I think for readers, it's an exciting way to get to learn about a new author and a new writer.
Sure, and one of the great things about story collections that aren't linked or aren't novel in stories is that you get a wide variety. And one of the things I love about writing short stories is that I can hop from character to character, head to head, plot to plot. I don't have to work on the same plot for 300 pages. So as a writer, it's a lot of fun. And I think as a reader, it is too.
It's harder in a way to,
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
no, you're absolutely right. I mean, a story has to be condensed, it has to be very tight. People can do anything they want in a story, but a more traditional story is really got to be lean and mean.
all righty. I like this. So, what are you reading for us today? And everyone, cliffordgarstang.com is the website. You must go. You must.
There's lots of good stuff on my website. So, yeah,
Yes,
please.
there is. Yeah.
During the pandemic, I actually came out with a new story collection called House of the Ancients and Other Stories. And it's relatively short. It's not linked in the same way that the others are. But there are sections to it that have some thematic continuity within those sections. And this is from a series of stories about a character named Oliver, who also appears in my novel, Oliver's Travels. But this story is called Papel Picado. It takes place in Mexico. Consuelo's father shows Oliver how to place the patron over the sheets of colored tissue paper and cut the shapes. Angels and crosses in this pattern with a hammer and chisel. They're in the workshop behind the family's cottage, itself some distance from the hacienda where Senor Ortiz is the caretaker, while Consuelo prepares quesadillas for their lunch. She has brought him from Mexico City to meet her family, a major step in their affair. The aroma of garlic and grilled chicken makes it hard to concentrate on the papel picado, but Oliver tries to imitate the older man's technique. With each tap of the chisel, his head pounds, and he is all too aware that Miguel, Consuelo's twin brother and the instigator of last night's tequila wars, is watching from the doorway, blocking the fierce new light. Women's work, Miguel says in English, so that his father won't understand. A sneer warps his lip. "Que?" asks Senor Ortiz. Oliver looks up, marveling again at Miguel's resemblance to Consuelo, two impressions from one mold. Last night, in the cantina, Miguel caught Oliver staring. He couldn't help himself. Consuelo's lips, her brother's. That's when Miguel challenged him to a round of shots, and then another. Oliver had no choice. Consuelo enters to call him to lunch. Oliver removes the template and lifts a delicate red tissue, lets the light dance through the gaps. He presents his handiwork and kisses Consuelo's mouth, his eyes searching for Miguel.
Wow. Cliff, let's do a shot.
If only I had thought to bring a bottle.
Oh, me too. It's summer. We can do anything. Oh, wow, wow. But that gives you some insight and some that's a good example of reading just a little bit of where and now your brain is like, now what? Who, what, and where? That's you you write a lot of gossip, don't you?
Well,
That's
that's
some
what's
good stuff.
fun about short stories.
Mm,
So
yeah.
one interesting thing about that story and these other stories about Oliver is that originally they were going to be in the novel Oliver's Travels, because Oliver's Travels is a novel about a guy named Ali who writes short stories himself, including pieces about this character who is his alter ego, Oliver. So ultimately, I decided those full stories didn't need to appear in the novel, and I took them all out, but I had them and I wanted them to go somewhere. So they ended up in this collection.
Very cool. Very cool. Everyone, Clifford Garstang is the website to go to. He's also on Blue Sky. Are you still on X? I can't keep
I
up
am,
with what people are. All right.
unfortunately,
He's,
I am.
I know. And then Facebook and Instagram. So keep up with him there. But go to his website and search out his books, whether it's a novel or the collections. They're all good. Thank you so much, Cliff. Always fun.
Great to be here, Lisa. Thank you.
are going to Budapest with Diane Dobry. You've seen Diane on our shows, heard her on our shows, often talking about Hungary. In fact, her website is called gettinghungary.com, so go check it out. She's a travel writer, she's an author, a memoirist, and she has a story in a anthology that is called, it's actually a 3-part anthology. It's called A Pocket Full of Dreams, a traveling diary of some storytellers, and it goes around the world from Africa through Europe to Asia. So how are you doing, Diane?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. And so this came out, what, in 2017, I think?
Yeah, around there. I was working on it in 2016, and I think it finally was published in 2017. Yeah.
There's a lot of work to go into an anthology, but I love that your story is about Budapest, but it was about New Year's. And was this about when you lived over in Hungary?
No, this was actually my first visit to Hungary ever. My story leads up to, just the thought, how the thought was planted in my head to go there, and that it just so happened that I went on New Year's Eve, and the person who put the thought in my head was like, yeah, you got to go for New Year's Eve. And it just all fell into place. So
that's cool. So was it fun? Did you have a good time?
Yeah. I mean, they do New Year's Eve like we do Mardi Gras, but it's cold and people are dressed up in costumes. And I had like a pink tinsel wig on, and you have like almost like a vuvuzela horn, and everybody's like tapping each other on the head. There's a lot of traditions that were in place at the time. That was 2003 going to New Year's 2004. And so some of the places have changed where I was when I first got there. We went to the horse races, which is something that was a tradition to go to the horse races on New Year's Eve. And that was the last horse race at that place in Budapest, the Hippodrome it was called. And it was the last one before they turned that property into a mall. So I was there for the last one. Yeah.
So, okay. So this is a wonderful collection. I think it's so cool when you have storytellers tell their tales from around the world. That's stuff I ate up when, especially growing up, that kind of got my wanderlust for travel. To have stories like that, like urged you. And I think short stories have a magic about them. It doesn't overwhelm you, but it gives you that little inspiration.
Yeah. It's kind of like, just a touch of like one day or one night in a place, kind of like the New York Times says 36 hours in a country or a city. And it's an actual person's experience. It's not just like, oh, you can do this or you could do that. This is like, here's what I experienced. There was the hot boiled wine, which they do in Europe. And that was what they call in Hungary, forró bor, because bor means wine and forró means boiled.
Wow. So I always thought glühwein, but apparently not.
I think that's the German version of it. But, you put all the little cinnamon sticks and spices in it. And it's a little tasty, warm treat, when you're outdoors.
What's so funny, because you ended up living there and then importing wine over to the United States. So yes. I knew you were going to get wine in here somehow. I'm not complaining ever. So yeah, do you want to read a couple words from your story?
Yeah.
What's the title of it? Yeah.
Well, I think in the book they had the Hungarian wording, but it's technically Happy New Year Budapest. In Hungarian, it's Boldog Új Budapest.
You go, girl.
And what it's Bujek is Buek, means Happy New Year. I wish you Happy New Year. So Buek, Buek. So I was working in the publications office at a New York State college in 1994 when I was first introduced to the idea of going to Budapest for New Year's Eve. The woman who cleaned our offices was from Poland, and when I mentioned I was of Hungarian descent, she asked me if I had gone to Budapest, and I said, no, I'd love to. And she said, you must go to Budapest for New Year's Eve. It's the best. The idea stayed in my head as a remote possibility of what I might do someday. Fast forward to 2003. This was the week that changed my life. I had met a Hungarian guy about a year and a half before that who worked near my job at Columbia University in New York City. When he went back to live in his country in December 2003, I was invited to visit him and his family during my Christmas New Year's break. Serendipity or The Power of Intention. And that's the beginning of how I actually went there. And then I described what we did the first day. We went to a restaurant, the Sazevesh Eterem, which means the 100-year restaurant. And I wrote, my luck, the 100-year part of the name turned out to describe the length of time one will wait for the food to be served, or at least it seemed that way to my jet-lagged brain. Like, describe that Budapest is New Year's Eve there is akin to Mardi Gras celebration, costume people, live music, fireworks, drinking on the street, long cardboard horns that people use to make noise, but more likely to hit other revelers on the head with.
It sounds fun. I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds like a festive fun and a good dash of silliness, you know?
Yeah, and people like my friend who I was with, who I called Cookie, he had like a curly black wig and a New York Yankees satin jacket with a New York Yankees like logo on a plastic. It looked like a fake, diamond logo. And then he had 2004 glasses, and all these Russian people would stop him like, oh, wow, because he had, Yankees, and the US and the Yankees were a big deal. And I had a pink tinsel wig and a furry coat, like lined coat. It wasn't real fur though.
Well, good. I'm glad you
Yeah.
did you notice, did they do anything like, I know you love to cook and gettinghungry.com, go there, everyone, but do they do anything? We do black eyed peas here in the States. Do they do anything, that is supposed to bring you prosperity?
Lentils, and they use pork shoulder. I don't remember what the pork shoulder was specifically for, but the lentils were for the money. But my grandmother, who was from Hungary, used to always say, hold money in your hand when the new year changes so that you can have money throughout the year. And I'll even, if I think I'm going to fall asleep, I'll put a glove on and I'll put the money in the glove so it's in my hand when when the New Year's hits.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Diane. It's always so much fun having you on the show. You always teach us something really cool about Hungary and all the other places you've been to. And watch for her podcast also. She was recently on talking about her wonderful home state of New York. So thanks so much, Diane.
Thanks. Okay, thanks. And one more thing is that this story is on my gettinghungry.com webpage under the Getting Hungry category.
Okay. Everyone check it out, gettinghungry.com. And quite frankly, I am. But I think I'm going to go for the pork shoulder more than the lentils. Maybe bacon. Anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me.
Linda Ballou is back here on Big Blend Radio. She's an author, a travel writer. And so she writes a lot of travel stories, travel articles, but she's also got her Lost Angel Travel Adventures podcast with us, which coincides with her books, Lost Angel books that you have, which are really, you've got your own anthologies, Linda. Is that right? I can say that.
Collections.
Yeah,
Yes.
your own collections there, but she's going to talk about a story that is in one of her Lost Angel books and also ended up in not in a negative way, but is also featured in an anthology of San Francisco. But she's talking about Jack London. So yeah, I know we did a podcast about Jack London a few months ago, and I'm going to put that in the episode notes for people to listen to the whole story. But you pretty much have a sacred connection with him.
Right. This is an excerpt from an essay that was published in the San Francisco Writers Conference anthology. And of course, Jack London was born in Oakland. So, that might have been why they included my story. But anyway, it was not until my own personal call to adventure took me to Hawaii that I tasted the vitality of Jack London's writing. I found solace in the gentle beauty of the islands and envied the athletic bodies of the Hawaiians and their connection with the sea. And while living on Kauai, I came to respect and admire their culture and began to delve into the history of old Hawaii. It was here that the seed from my historical novel Wainani, A Voice from Old Hawaii, took root in my heart. In my research, I was pleasantly surprised to find Jack London's Hawaiian stories. Jack made the Blue Water crossing to the territory of Hawaii in 1907 from San Francisco on the barely seaworthy Snark. The sailor on horseback sailed for 2 years throughout the South Seas, collecting adventures for his stories. Over a period of 13 years, he returned many times to Hawaii, his favorite resting spot. He showed great aloha for the islands and loved to hear the stories of the Kanakas and delved deep into the myths of the old Hawaii handed down in the chants of elders. While writing my fictionalized account of the life of Kakumanu, the favorite wife of Kamehameha the Great, I read Jack's Hawaii stories for inspiration and insight into the minds of the ancients. I studied the techniques used by the master of engaging writing and prayed that what I absorbed would filter through my own writing. And after roaming the globe, Jack came home to his beauty ranch, where he died at 40 from uremic poisoning. I sought out his simple gravesite, surrounded by a weathered wooden fence. By this time, I had read all of Jack's major works and a couple of books written about him. I felt a spiritual connection with a man who died nearly a century ago. It seemed he had been with me all my life, forging ahead of me, sharing his insights, giving me guidance from the grave. And for me, there was no time between us. The man who religiously wrote 1,000 words a day departed in silence. No one spoke at his service, as though there were no more words left to say.
Wow, Linda, that's deep. She rolls it deep. So what book is of yours that you have the story in?
It's I think it's in Lost Angel Unleashed. Yeah, my most recent one. Yes, Lost Angel Unleashed, which is kind of more travel memoir and some essays that didn't get included in other books and things like that. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. You can go to lindablueauthor.com. You can also keep up with her travel adventures at lostangeladventures.com. And she's here on Big Blend Radio every third Wednesday with new episodes. Thank you so much for sharing, Linda.
All right. It's been fun, as always, Lisa.
Okay, so we're going to Canada now. And you know what? We cannot talk about anthologies and story collections without bringing poetry into the element. And we have HEIDI SANDER back on the show. She's been on a couple times. She is one of our friends through the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. We do shows with them every second Tuesday, Friday, and every third Monday. So we get to go around the world with all these travel writers and destinations. And HEIDI is over in Canada. So welcome back, HEIDI. How are you?
Thanks so much for having me back. I'm doing really well. How about you?
Doing great. And it just looks like you're having a beautiful summer day in Canada.
It is. And, you know, we soak up that weather as long as we can here in Canada because we do get a lot of snow.
But the snow gives you the greenery and all the flowers.
That's true. That's true.
Now, I know that you've got a wonderful book that talks about Stratford on Avon. Am I saying it right? Avon? Okay. And Stratford in your area. And you've done a poetry collection. And that's how you first came on the show, was one of our garden parties. And we're like, oh, yes, we want poetry in the garden. And that's what you do. And I heard that this book, now you got to tell everyone the name, but this just won an award, right?
Yes, it did. So it's my book, Stratford Gems, and it's really my love song to my hometown of Stratford. So it has poems that are based on particular people, places, or things that I love in Stratford. And then I've combined that with photography. And then there's a bit of a blurb about, you know, how to get there and why I love the place. So it's kind of like a poetic travel guide. And it just won an Urban Poetry Award. So I'm excited about that.
That's wonderful. And you teach poetry as well, so people can know about that?
I do, yes. It's called Pathways to Poetry. It's an online poetry course. And then I offer workshops as well, some too. I do quite a bit of poetry workshops for the cancer community, and that's all volunteer. And it's just a lovely way to give back and help people find their voice through a difficult journey.
Yeah, a little therapy helps, right? Awesome. Awesome. I love that. So please read a poem from the book and show everybody this beautiful book.
So that's the cover. And then I'm going to be reading a poem based on this place, which is called Confederation Park. And it's a kind of a hidden little gem in Stratford. And a lot of people don't know about it because it's hidden by some trees, but it's a lovely, quiet place. So the poem is called One Drop. This morning, in the warm mist of summer, I dipped my toes into the water, circling the ripples from my body, waves mapping my blood, holding me here while I keep drifting toward you.
That's awesome. The ripple effect.
Yes, yes, and it's just such a quiet spot, and yeah, it's very contemplative, and yes, the ripple effect is quite powerful on many levels, isn't it?
Well, I love that you have the ripple effect and at the same time the calm.
Mm.
Very nice. Very nice. Wonderful. Well, we're going to have to come visit you up there,
Yes, you
We're
have.
going to have to. We want to go to this garden just because of your poetry and book. I mean, it's like we have to go now. So,
Yes, but make sure it's in the summer.
oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
Have a few months. Can you make it up this way? Or?
Not this year, but maybe next year we should do it. We have to cross over the border for other projects too. So,
Let's do that. We could have an on-site
podcast.
podcast. That would be neat.
We'll have a Canadian podcast party.
That would be amazing.
Let's do it.
It's out. Let's put it in the books. Would love
Are we
that.
going to put poutine on the books too?
We can. Stratford is very much a culinary center as well as a theater town, so we'll do it all.
Thank you, everyone. Go to HEIDISANDER.com. The link is in the episode notes. Stay tuned. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Matt Cost has a story in an anthology called Celluloid Crimes. Now, you know what? That just makes me want to sing Celluloid Heroes all day. But this is a collection of short stories about the 1950s in Hollywood, which, oh my gosh, so much went down during that time frame. So welcome, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, just living the life of writing and being in a nice Maine sun.
Ah, that's nice in Maine, right? I know. I was going to ask you, have you been to LA, Los Angeles area?
I have, but not for years and years.
Yeah, well, this is set in the 1950s, so it doesn't really matter, though. But at least
Yeah.
you've been there, right? So have you been in other anthologies?
I have been in one other anthology within Circle Publications called Eccentric Circles.
This is coming out sometime at the end of August, around that time frame. So everyone, you can go to mattcost.net to go and learn more as that happens. But yeah, tell us about your story. I know you're going to read a little bit from it too.
My story is, the typical down on the luck gumshoe in Hollywood, trying to pay his bills and get by, and a little bit dark and depressed. And then he gets a client who comes in and hires him, not only to find that her husband is cheating, but perhaps to stop him from killing her.
Wow. Okay. So what are you going to read us? Like, is it from the beginning?
I might as well just start at the beginning and give you a little taste of what it is. So yeah, this is entitled Dead Men Don't Kiss, an Elton Connor PI mystery. She was so incredibly beautiful. Her eyes were two oceans of blue, skin that was flawlessly smooth and creamy, a smile that would melt an iceberg, and a body to kill for. The extraordinary exquisiteness of this dish was probably why I didn't react when she pressed the pistol to my head and pulled the trigger. My name is Elton Connor, of the lineage lover of hounds and not hero or champion. How'd I end up in Hollywood? For the dames, of course. I had a beatnik pal who moved out here from our hometown of Nowhere, Ohio. He was home visiting his parents for Christmas, and I met up with him for a few bottles of that blue ribbon beer. The conversation, as most do between young men, revolved around women. Donald yapped on and on about the dames out in Hollywood. It was his theory that all the barbecue migrated to the West Coast with dreams of Tinseltown and the silver screen. Hardly any of them succeeded. Some returned to Dullsville, but most of them stayed and played the role of eye candy. 2 weeks later, a solitary suitcase in the trunk of my Ford sedan, I hit the road. It turns out that an average looking Joe with little money still didn't reel in the barbecue dames, and I spent the first 2 years before I had a proper conversation with any woman at all, and she was a client. It was a day like any other. The sun was fiery, like the first shot of whiskey going down the hatch. The smog hadn't yet drifted over from LA, but the air was as thick as pea soup. My feet were up on my desk in my dingy office on Vine between Sunset and Hollywood Boulevard. The focus of my thoughts hadn't changed in months now. The bills weren't being paid and the clients weren't coming through the door. I was seriously on the nut. And then the door opened, illuminating the shadows of my one-room office desk with a chair and 2 across from it, all picked up at the second-hand store around the corner. One stopped short of being chopped into kindling to start a fire or carted off to the dump. There was a large window staring out at Vine Street, people bustling here and there, caught up in the importance of themselves, intent on quickly getting nowhere. I'm looking for Elton Connor. Her voice, my name, on her lips, caressed my soul. We'll stop there.
No. Do you do a lot of readings? Because I know you do a lot of cost talks, with all your books, your library of books. You have a library. Do you have your own bookshelf at home?
I have several bookshelves because I also will sell my books at the cost talks. Okay. So of my 17 published titles, I probably have over 200 books on the shelves so that I can stack them up and bring some of them off with me and not run out when I'm doing 3 or 4 things a week. So, and I usually at almost every event read from one work or another. So yeah, I do a lot of readings.
Wow, very cool. So mattcost.net, everybody, that is the website to go to keep up with Matt. Stay tuned for Celluloid Crimes. And when you read it, put on Celluloid Heroes. It's a fantastic album by the Kinks. Thanks. Welcome, everyone. We are talking about short story collections, essay collections, and anthologies. And Eva Eldridge is here. You can keep up with her at evaeldridge.com. And what's your new website, Eva, for everyone to get to?
3 sides to author services. And that's the number 3 with the word sides and the number 2 as one word, as one unit, and then author services.
Yeah, it's all linked in the episode notes. You can learn more about what Eva does as an editor and working in the book publishing and marketing industry. And I know you are very connected to the Tucson Sisters in Crime that we have on the shows. A lot of the members from Tucson Sisters in Crime. In fact, you edited their anthology, right? Trouble in Tucson.
Yes, I did. I curated it, which means I actually picked the stories for it and did the final edits on it and one of our other members actually published it. But yeah, I'm the editor for Trouble in Tucson.
Yeah.
It came out in 2023, and it was to help celebrate Left Coast Crime, which is a mystery writing convention that occurred in Tucson. So all the stories about Trouble in Tucson are stories about trouble in Tucson. It could be murder, it could be theft, it could be other interesting things that happen, but that's what the whole anthology is about. I don't know, I'm speaking more from the editor's point of view, so more than a writer. But what I'm looking for as an editor are stories that meet the theme of whatever the anthology is. So I'm currently the editor for one of the editors for the Desert Sleuth's new book that's coming out in September, which is called Danger Awaits. And part of our job as editors were to pick stories that matched the theme of that and that were presented to us in proper format. So anytime writers want to submit a story for an anthology, they need to follow the submission guidelines and they need to write to the theme. It's very important when I'm going through 200 Well, I also was an editor on Feisty Felines, which we had more than 300 submissions to. So part of the criteria is write to theme and write according to the submission guidelines.
Wow.
You know, there's proper ways. So the stories are fun. I mean, you get tons and tons of stories that you want to include in your anthology, but you can't include all of them, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to take the best of the best or the most unique ones, because you can't have 3 stories about, let's say, in Trouble in Tucson. I didn't want 3 murders happening at the Fox Theater. So you pick the best of them, and those are the ones you publish.
It's exciting. Trouble in Tucson. So everyone, we're talking about Tucson, Arizona, which is becoming like a very literary, it's like the literary hub of the Southwest. I look at it that way because of the Tucson Festival of Books too, right? And that's where the Tucson Sisters in Crime is involved, and you're involved with that.
Right. We have the Tucson Festival of Books is the 3rd largest book festival in the country, and it's only for one weekend in March. And we have Tucson Sisters in Crime, all the Tucsons here, Tucson. Tucson Sisters in Crime has a large booth during the festival, which allows our authors to sell their own books. So many of them are self-published, and they need a little step up. So that really helps them have a face and be able to talk to their readers.
That's awesome. And it's so good that you can go in together, because those things are expensive too, for an author to have their own booth. So it's a nice way to do it. And it's like teamwork, right? And I love talking to the Tucson Sisters in Crime, because we always talk about burying bodies or, killing people off somehow. It's fun. It's fun stuff. And the Tucson Sisters in Crime, everyone, that website's in the episode notes. Everything that Eve is talking about, whatever link we have, will be in the episode notes for you to check out and follow through with. For the next one, the one that you're working on, is that Desert Sleuths? Is that a separate organization from Tucson Sisters in Crime, or are they affiliated?
We are all members of the national group Sisters in Crime. So Arizona has 3 chapters: Tucson Sisters in Crime, Desert Sleuths in Phoenix, and they also have Grand Canyon in Phoenix. And because Tucson, in the old days before Zoom, everybody would have to drive up to Phoenix in the middle of the week to go to the Desert Sleuths meetings. And nobody wanted to do that because, Phoenix is 2 hours away. And then the meetings were at night. So they branched off and created Tucson Sisters in Crime. So we do our meetings on Saturdays in the afternoon. Anyway, and we do Zoom mostly. So yes, so we're all associated with the national group, but we all have our own chapters with our own rules and members. And some of us are members across the board. Like I'm a member of all 3 chapters, plus national, plus a few other writing organizations, just because it's good to share.
Now, is that where you get into Left Coast Crime? Am I getting these names right?
Okay, Left Coast Crime is an annual convention run by other people. The Sisters in Crime is a big part of who attends that, and our authors that speak at that. So they had their convention in Tucson in 2023. It was in Seattle one year. It was in, I don't know, it's been in Denver this year, I think. So it moves all over the Southwest. There are other conventions like VoucherCon, which is another mystery writer, and they have their own anthology. And Malice Domestic, who does their own anthology. So VoucherCon moves all over the country. In fact, it'll be in Calgary next year.
Oh.
And then, yeah, I know.
Where you're going.
And then Malice Domestic is on the East Coast. So I think it's in the app in Washington, D.C. area. I'm not sure if that's exactly at the same place every year, but all of these big, huge conventions usually have an anthology to go out along with it. And so I know Malice Domestic has a call for submissions open right now. And I actually know somebody we're helping work with to get her story ready to submit to them.
Awesome.
So,
That's awesome. So now tell us about Feisty Felines, because I remember when this came out and I love the cover. I don't know if those who are listening, just go look in the links and you'll follow through to be able to get it. But Feisty Felines, tell us about this.
Feisty Felines and Other Fantastical Familiars is the anthology I did for my master's program. So we wrote up the submission guidelines
posted them. Those were open wide, which means anybody from anywhere in the world, if they found the submissions link, were allowed to submit stories. We got 360 some stories for that.
Wow.
So I got to read most of those. There were a
That's
few
a
that
lot.
did not meet the guidelines and they got tossed before we didn't even read them. And it's all stories about familiars, magical people who have their animal, or in one case, it's a mechanical spider familiar. They were so much fun. And not all the stories are funny. Some of the stories were extremely heart-rending. We have the nine-tailed fox anyway, some of the stories were based on legends. Some of them were completely made up. Some were like Kitten for Sale, a series of ads that lasted for a week, and then the kitten probably ate the owner. They leave it kind of open. It's funny. It's written in a very funny way. So, that's the kind of thing. If you're interested in writing and submitting to anthologies, that's the sort of thing that your editors are looking for.
So this is a way for new writers, maybe if you're looking at writing a book, this is a way to get established and start to get readers, right? People to know your style, and to even, before you do your full book, to get your feet wet.
They're kind of like writing chops. So you learn what, and you can write a perfectly good story, an excellent story, and the editor still may not take it. And it's also to teach you that don't take rejection personally. Sometimes the rejection is because you have 3 stories that are very similar and very well written, but you can't publish all of them. There's always, how big do you want the anthology? What are the costs of publishing? Many of the anthologies are paid, so they pay the writers, and they can't afford to pay, they can't print everything that comes in. So there's many considerations, but it's good practice, especially if you're a new writer.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Eva. Always good to have you on the podcast.
All right.
As you heard with Eva Eldridge from the Tucson Sisters in Crime. We love to chat with the Tucson Sisters in Crime. We're also connected with Desert Sleuths. And this brings us to our next guest here, and that is Suzanne Flagg. And you can go to her website, SuzanneFlaggWriter.com, and that is linked in the episode notes. So welcome, Suzanne. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
It's good to have you here. So now you've got quite a few stories in collections, right? Over the last, 15 years?
Yes, I've been writing for since 2000.
Okay, wow. Yeah, so 25 years. And do you write full novels or mostly short stories?
I have 4 novels published and quite a few short stories over the years. I don't know how many to count because it's been with different publishers and with different, like I say, over the years, in between the novels and, a couple of them in 2000. I think my first short story may have been about 2004. And then with Red Coyote Press, I had 3 different ones published between 2005 and 2012 when I was involved with Red Coyote Press. And several have been published by the Desert Sleuths in their anthologies, and then a couple of others in between there.
And you have another one coming out in September through Desert Sleuths.
Yes, I am. That one's called Magic, and it's a little bit of a paranormal, I guess you'd call it. It's I don't know if it's suspense, paranormal. I don't know how you describe it. It's a little genre bending. I think it's just something that came out of my head. I'm a musician, so I've got this.
Oh, okay.
I've got this lady who hears a Chopin melody, and she goes into a theater, and she sees this piano playing Chopin, but nobody's playing the piano. It's just playing by itself. So then she realizes that it's a magician. And then she wonders, is a real magician, or is it supernatural,
Ooh.
something going on? So, and then she
Oh.
gets obsessed with this magician, and it goes on from there.
Ah, so this is going to be in the Desert Sleuths anthology that's coming out in September. And so this is the Southwest chapter, right? And it's called Danger Awaits. Am I getting this right?
Yes, that's the title of the anthology. So West, Danger Awaits.
Okay, so it's Danger Awaits. And this is launching on September 19th through the chapters right now. Annual conference. So watch for that. And again, you can go to Suzanne's website. It's linked in the episode notes. And then I wanted to go into one of your other stories. You really have a lot here. I'm looking at how many, short stories you've done. And I think is it easy to go from short story to novel, or are they just two completely different writing things for you?
The difference is just the word count, but I find it easier to do the short stories because I write short to begin with. I had trouble bringing my novels up to the word count that they need to be.
Oh.
When I wrote my first novel, it came to 50,000 words, and they need to be like 65 to 70,000 words. It's like, oh my God, add subplots, add this, add that. So I do have trouble getting my novels to, get up to snuff. So that's why I like to do a lot of short stories.
Ah, well, this is cool though. I think, and people like it. There's a new way for people to read authors that they don't know about, and get to, I don't know. I think we're also in that, era where people like to read something short before they go to bed and, not have a commitment to it. But then you know what it's like when you get a good novel. Everybody, leave me alone. I'm not going to bed. I'm reading it all night. Who cares about work tomorrow morning? I'll stay up. So, it's just two different experiences, really. One of them we want to talk about is called A Pandemonium of Parrots. I love this. And this is a short story that's already out now, right?
Yes. The Malice Domestic Conference every year is a conference in Bethesda, Maryland, that kind of is dedicated to Agatha Christie. They give out the Agatha Awards every year. And so last year in 2024, no, it would have been 2025, this past year, the theme of and that's another thing about anthologies. They usually have themes. So you write to a theme. So the theme was humorous. It was called Mystery Most Humorous. So I had written this story about a parrot who kind of solves the mystery, or was the main focus of the mystery. So I had sent that out to a few other places and had been rejected, that type of thing. This happens.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, well, this kind of fits. It's a humorous story. It doesn't always work for other themes or for other anthologies. So I sent it in and got accepted because it was a humorous story. So that's how I got into the Mystery Most Humorous anthology.
That's fun. And parrots are hysterical. I mean, as we travel full time across the country, and we pet sit as we travel, and we took care of a parrot that oversaw, and I mean what I'm saying, oversaw 2 dogs, a cat, and then there were 2 pigs. Anyway, so this is this parrot. It was African. This parrot would feed the dog some of its food, like little seed things. And then when the dog would come get the food, the bird would look down, and I can't repeat what it would say each time. But you know how parrots are. They have little sayings. Sometimes they're nice, and sometimes they picked it up from. And what that parrot said, we're like, oh.
I didn't say it.
Yes.
It's not my turn.
I was just going to say, that African gray parrots are the smartest parrot that there is. And I had a funny experience after I wrote this thinking, oh, this is totally fiction. And then I heard on a friend of mine heard something on the internet that over in England, I believe it was, an African gray parrot had gone to Siri and ordered food from their from their owner and ordered food, and they got extra things on their order that they had not ordered, and the parrot had said, "Hey Siri, order this or that or some extra things," and they said, "Wait a minute, we did not order this." And the parrot had ordered it. So apparently
that's really funny. That's really, really funny. No, we had this friend who had a motel, historic motel, and whenever she parked, because she had a property where she lived on the same property, and every time she parked her car, this parrot went off and was calling people names, including her. But anyway, yeah, parrots. Yeah. Anyway, there's some, that's parrots. Parrots are funny. They really are. So yeah, can you read a little bit from the short story?
Sure. This is the beginning of a pandemonium of parrots. 911, what is your emergency? Murder, murder. The 911 operator heard a high, squeaky voice, possibly a child or a frightened woman. Can you tell me your address? Murder, murder. The operator spoke into the headset. It's going to be okay. The police will soon be there. Luckily, they had ways to determine the location as long as the caller stayed on the line. George is dead. George is dead. Is the perpetrator still in the house? The only answer was a repeated, George is dead. The operator heard a flurry of noises in the background and other voices repeating, murder, murder. Is someone else with you? She asked. Who's in the house with you? If the caller was a child, there might be other children in the house. Had these children watched someone kill their father? The police are on their way, she said. Stay on the phone with me until they get there, okay? Stay on the phone, the voice repeated. Officer Sanchez and Anderson responded to the call at the upscale home in the historic downtown district. Gun drawn, Officer Anderson knocked and yelled, Police, open the door. From within, several voices echoed, Police, police, accompanied by a rustle of movement. Anderson tried the doorknob, and the door opened a crack. He looked over at Sanchez, who nodded. You never knew what might be behind a closed door. Sanchez raised his fingers to signal. 1, 2. On the sign of 3, Anderson flung open the door and entered a room filled with parrots, swooping and squawking. He ducked, nearly shooting himself in the foot. The birds repeated, Police, police, as they flew one by one into cages lined up along one side of the room. Sanchez slammed the door shut. What the hell? One parrot remained, perched on an ornate mahogany table in the center of the room, guarding a landline telephone. The receiver had been knocked off its cradle. A man's body lay in a pool of blood on an oriental carpet. The parrot squawked, Murder! A voice on the other end of the line asked, Have the police arrived? The parrot repeated, Police, police. Sanchez walked over to the phone, pulled a handkerchief out of his back pocket, and picked up the receiver. This is Officer Sanchez with the police department. Is this the 911 operator? Yes, sir, she replied. Are the children who called okay? It sounded like they were in a real panic. Now that you're there, I'll get off the line. Don't worry, he said. No children are in jeopardy. But make sure you save the recording of this call. You're not going to believe the situation we've got here.
That's cute. That's funny. And it could happen.
Yeah,
but there's still a dead body.
Yes. There's still a dead body.
Oh.
A crime to be solved.
Oh, wow. Okay. And well, we'll have to read it
Because now I'm like, well, are the parrots going to help? Are they going to tell what they saw?
Well,
Oh.
absolutely. The parrot is obviously is the witness to the crime, and
Hey, why
we'll see
not?
what goes from there.
Well, thank you so much, Suzanne, for joining us. Everyone, the links are in the episode notes. You can go to SuzanneFlaggWriter.com. Thank you so much. That was fun.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right, everyone. Erin Youngless is here, and you've heard her on our show before talking about being in the Made in LA anthologies. In fact, I think that's the first time you came on a show. Erin was with, an anthology.
With Maiden.
Yeah. You mean two?
I've been in two, yes, in volume 2 and volume 3.
Oh, okay. So there's 3 of them, or is this like every?
There, I think, are 6 or now. There's about 6 of them, but I didn't submit after those 2. I was branching out.
It is like the submission process for anthologies. Like, do you have a story maybe that would fit that when you see a submission? Like, here, you can apply for this, for when they have submission callings, or do you write something fresh for something like that?
It depends. Sometimes I have stories that I just submit that I'm trying to find a home for, and other times I see a submission with a theme that I like, and I'm like, well, I wanna try to submit to that because that would be fun to write.
Oh, cool. So sometimes those submissions are like, ooh, that's an interesting thing to, get your creative wheels going, right?
Yes.
That's fun.
Absolutely.
That's fun. But these tend to end up being a lot of horror, right? Have you done any anthologies non-horror?
Yes, actually, be honest, my very first anthology was a poetry anthology, and that wasn't horror.
But you can't do horror poetry, right?
You can. It's super funny. I go to write short stories, I end up writing horror, and I go to write poems, and I'm like, I'll write a horror poem, and I can't. It just, for some reason, doesn't cross over.
That's interesting. So you got Made in LA. Those are 2. So everyone, links are in the episode notes as always. And so now I know you've got another one you've just been in, right?
I was just in one called Thorns, and it's out of Melbourne, Australia. The theme on that one was tumbleweeds. So each story is a different idea of a tumbleweed horror story.
Oh, like the actual plant?
Like the actual plant, yes.
Ooh, desert kind of thing going on, which gets interesting because bodies are buried out there.
Yeah, it can be.
Okay. I had to go there, right? Now, is this different from the Misfits one? You've got another one, right?
The Misfits, A Night of Misfits Stories is actually in a fundraising, a charity anthology that was put together by a film festival called A Night of Misfits Films. And they were raising money to help a woman who has a horse ranch, and she uses the horses to help people with trauma and with children.
Oh, wow.
And so all the money proceeds goes directly to them. And that's one of them that I had a story and I submitted.
What was your story about for that?
That one was about a woman who realizes that she is actually a robot and that she was part of a government program, and all the robots start malfunctioning. And that's when she realizes that she isn't Veronica Lake like she thought she was.
Starting to sound like now, but anyway, just a little bit. Okay, so now tell us about the latest one, because are you going to read from it? And you got a new one. Wait, the school one, the high school one. Tell us about that.
Echoes of the Youth. I'm not actually in that one. My son is, though. It is an anthology of high school students. It includes short stories, poetries, and my son wrote a comic. And it's the theme is high school. It's their point of view and their perspective and their words. And it's lovely. And it has everything from science fiction to poems to a haiku.
Oh, wow.
It's a lovely anthology, and 70% of the proceeds goes to the school. Also, it's another charity fundraising event.
I realized that anthologies were used for that, but that's cool. That's a cool thing.
They can be. I never heard of it before until I saw that one with the horse ranch. And then when I was talking with my son's teacher, and we had this idea that it would be fun to highlight the kids and get their voices out there, because a lot of them, this is what they want to do with their lives. They want to be writers. And why not start now? So helping them begin their life's journey as a writer, plus helping the school.
That's what I've heard is like anthologies is a great way for the reader to connect with new authors and new writers, or just someone they've never heard of, because, published authors of full novels will be in there too, right? Depending, maybe not the high school one, but you never know what could happen, right? But this is a great way also for new writers, because I know you also like help writers as well, right? In your work. And she's on shows doing genealogy and digging up family history, but sometimes she's digging up bodies in the stories. But anyway, just saying.
I'm always happy to help writers, and sometimes I do coaching to help people get their stories on track. And a lot of times the hardest part about writing is writing. We get in our heads and we start thinking that we can't do it, or we get imposter syndrome, and it's really just part of the process. I've never met a writer who didn't have a moment where they were like, this isn't good, but it's good. You just need to finish it.
I'll just get back on it. Yeah, because, and then also we want to edit something, and then we'll start editing what was good.
Editing's where the magic happens. First drafts is really Terry Pratchett. First draft is you just telling yourself the story. Editing is when you go in and you add all those layers and foreshadowing and nuances and make it amazing.
It's still a lot of work, whether it's a short story or a novel. And sometimes a short story can be the hardest thing to write.
Yes, it is. It's also, I recommend it to anybody, even if you're not going to have it published, because to be able to sit down and take a very short window of pages and tell a cohesive story, that is the great writing course right there, because you have to be able to have a beginning, middle, and end, and you have 15 pages to do it. Yeah. Have you ever? Years ago, when it first started.
It's still going, right?
It is. It's a juggernaut now.
Yeah.
Like they have all these kickoffs. I think there's already a pre-nano that starts this month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's become a big deal. Wow, that's really cool. Okay, so are you going to read for us?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. This is so much fun. I'm loving this show. Everybody's reading things and you get this little snippet and you're like, but wait, I know there's more.
Right? I want more. That's how it should be. That's great. So, okay, my story is called The Wind Witch, which is another name for a tumbleweed. And I'm going to start in the middle. So it's set in California at college. And this a teacher of botany, it gets a wind witch, a tumbleweed sent to her. And this is, at the same time, they start noticing tumbleweeds moving around the school, but they're not moving, which is weird. So here we go. He let go of her before noticing the line of tumbleweeds circling the parking lot. They stood side by side around rows of cars, some filled, others empty. He surveyed the row of wind witches, stopping on one with a feather sticking out of its branches. He lifted his gaze towards the sky. There wasn't a bird to be seen. Outside your office, he sputtered. Hetty turned to him. What about outside my office? Izzy extended his arm, pointing at the tumbleweed with the feather. That one. It sat there outside the window, unmoving. He thought for a moment and added, like it was watching us. She locked eyes with him briefly before looking at the barricade of tumbleweeds blocking any cars from attempting to leave. The Santa Ana winds kicked up and Hetty's long hair twirled in a cyclone above her head, but the tumbleweeds did not budge. Do you think this is why Steve sent one over? She said. Both Izzy and Hetty surveyed the scene, playing out before them. The head of security and the other guards split their energy between students and plants. When a human screamed, the tumbleweeds remained static. Calm down, one guard yelled. We'll get them out of the way, another shouted. Hetty reached for her phone, but her pocket was empty. I think you left it by the crate, Izzy said, and handed his phone to her. Steve Anderson was written in bold letters across the screen. And it was already ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing. Hetty ended the call and dialed again. It rang some more. Steve called me 2 days ago, she told him. Said he found something weird in the park, thought it was a meteor. He handed the phone back to Izzy. He dialed a third time. He called me too, said we needed to come out, check it out, that the rock was making everything behave abnormally. The phone kept ringing. He is always near his phone, HEIDI commented. That's how he keeps notes. Izzy knew she was right. Steve used the device for his research. He was never without it. Why hadn't he called back? And why wasn't he picking up right then? As he shoved the phone in his pocket, HEIDI turned toward him, shielding her face as the debris and dirt swirled around the lot. Izzy wrapped his arms around her, anchoring her to him, and lowered his face into her hair. They stayed like that momentarily, the scent of her vanilla shampoo filling his nose. Then there was a scream. His gaze was drawn to the parking lot, where a pair of twitching legs grotesquely jutted skywards. The torso had vanished inside the Wind Witch, devoured by the monster's blood-soaked tumbleweed that throbbed unnaturally. I'll stop there.
I think this is the perfect way to close the show. Cliffhanger.
Right?
Really? Oh my gosh. Tell everyone how people can connect with you and your books.
You can find me on line at asyounglistauthor.com, on Instagram at asauthor, asyounglistauthor, and all of my books are on Amazon. And for the anthology, which is Echoes of the Youth, for the high school anthology, you can find that at Spring Hill Jack Media.
And we'll have that all listed and linked in the episode notes, everyone. And you can also go to genealogybyaaron.com, right? Got it on the top of my head. So if you got family history going on, which also includes reading and writing, check that out too. It's always good having you on the show, Aaron. You've got my brain all twirly-whirly now. Literally.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's new Feast of Words show. We want to thank our featured guests, Clifford Garstang, Diane Dobry, HEIDI Sander, Linda Ballou, Matt Cost, Eva Eldridge, Suzanne Flagg, and Aaron Younglis. Please be sure to subscribe to us at youtube.com/@BigBlendRadio or go right to BigBlendRadio.com so you don't miss future episodes. Until next time, keep reading and keep savoring the Feast of Words.